We'll now introduce the notion of abstract data types. An abstract data type, or sometimes also known as just an ADT, is a data type where we separate the logical properties of the type from the implementation part. So we're looking at the logical properties of this data type, and we're not really worried about how we implement it. A way I usually phrase it is we separate the what from the how. So we look at what needs to be done or what kind of actions we can perform on objects of these types, but we don't care really how it's done. We don't care about the nitty-gritty details. So let me give you an example. Let's say we want to try to keep a collection of elements. Maybe we're trying to keep a collection of addresses, students, employees, and so forth. This type of structure is what we would call a list. And we'll talk a bit about this pretty soon. And we'll even talk more about it in more details in other classes. So what are some of the properties that list can have? Well, there's going to be a first element. There's going to be a last element in the list. If we're given a particular element, we'll assume that we're not talking about the last one. There's going to be a next element. There's going to be an element that comes next. If we're given some element, assuming we're not talking about the first, then there's going to be some element that comes before it or some previous element. We're allowed to remove an element from the list. We're allowed to add elements to a list. And if we need to find a specific element, we can go through the entire collection. So in Java, there is a data type that's called vector that allows us to implement this list. It lets us add items, it lets us delete items, and it lets us search for items. But here's the thing. We don't know how these operations are implemented. We know what's going on. We know what these different operations are, but we don't know how it's actually going about it. So we can use these operations without even knowing how the implementations work. So the whole point here with abstract data types is we have these features, we have these operations, and we know what they're supposed to do, but we're not really all that concerned about the underlying structure behind it. We're not concerned about the underlying implementation. Now, we will talk about this in more details in the next course in Computer Science 2, but we wanted to at least introduce the idea now, just thinking about how we can separate the what and from the how, because this becomes a huge deal when implementing different classes, when implementing different data structures, because it allows us to come up with these more complex, more practical and useful data structures that we couldn't do unless we separated the what from the how.